Hey everyone, and welcome back to this week's video. So we're still working with the lovely November kits full of the Pink Paisley, or is it Pink Fresh, Indigo Hills 2 collection and the Cocoa Vanilla collection Midnight, which is a lovely, both of them are lovely collections and they go together so nicely. So I'm just working with these two photos here that I have sized down with my Project Life app and printed on a 4x4 card photo, and then I've printed I already said I printed them, cut them down so they look like they're from a photo booth. That was just a happy accident. I just made them smaller just in case I wanted to add them into Project Life, thinking that that would probably be the case, seeing as they're wedding photos and there's going to be plenty of 12x12 layouts and other size layouts, but that's okay. The more the merrier, as long as I get the memories scrapped, hey? So I've just positioned them here, sort of overlapping each other, and I've just got this plain white tissue paper. Just one layer I'm adding, just cutting a little border around the edges, not worrying too much. Because it's tissue paper, you can get away with it, half looking straight. So, done that, and then I'm going to work on the rest of the layout, really. So I do decide on this lovely blue. It's slightly ombre paper, but before I decide on that, I'm going to work out what ephemera I wanted. I was thinking it'd be nice to have the photos sitting on the left there with a cluster coming out from the middle, heading over to the right, and then maybe a little bit to the left. And that's the design I had in my mind, just simply that I wanted the photos here and a cluster to come out from the middle there. So I'm going to work on and soon quickly discover that flowers would be the best option. And I pull out that butterfly and the leaves. And I'm just going to have a fiddle with all the ephemera, because we do have a lot. Because not only do we get the ephemera from collections, we also get exclusive ephemera in the Kitaholic Kits. So there's always a lot to choose from. So you can see now I've got them just pulled out in piles, ready to go, and I thought I might add colour to them so that they fit into the bluey, purple, grey kind of a scheme. I did try that marker, which is like a Copic marker, but it's from Aldi, and instead realised it's way too bright and pull out my paints. So these are two Jane Davenport paints, and then I pull out a third one, which is actually a Flutterby paint. So I'm just using some cardstock simply because I scribbled on it with that marker just to see what colour that was. And I only need a little bit anyway, because I'm going to do like a watercolour effect. So put some paint on my brush, and I just squirted the water straight onto the flower. And I'm adding some colour and then getting my paper towel and mopping some up. So this one is not my favourite, because obviously the first one isn't usually the best of the technique when you're just trying out, but instead I keep going and come out with some lovely flowers that I end up actually using on two layouts. So the third layout uses these flowers as well, because as you can see, I've made a big pile of flowers and I paint them all because I was having so much fun, and I thought that I would just have such a huge floral cluster to the right in the middle of my page, but instead I add some and some other stuff, and then use the rest of them on a second layout. My third design team layout is what I'm trying to say. Maths at this time of night is ridiculous. So I'm just going through, adding the water, adding a bit of colour, and mopping it up with the paper towel, just so that the colour's not so vibrant and thick that you can see the sketchy lines that Zoe from Cocoa Vanilla has put in these flowers, even adding a little bit of blue to the leaves there, and just having a play. It actually is really fun and easy. You don't want to, you spray a fair bit amount of water, but you don't want to spray it so that it's, sitting in a puddle of water, because obviously it is paper and chipboard and cardboard kind of thing that I'm painting here. Added a bit of a second colour to that one, just to add a bit of a highlight to part of the petals. And we're just going through, having a play. I really am, there's no rhyme or reason. I'm just having fun with it, just not thinking too much about it. And in fact, this was so much fun that I think if I could find a nice stamp in my collection, that I might do something similar another time, because it works so well and it helps with the colour when coordination if you don't have exactly what you want. But it's really lovely to have a watercolour background or painty effect. So you could see when I picked up that blue that time, it picked up lots of blue, and then I added in some purple. Just there's some water on my desk, so I was just mopping up some water. Waste not, want not, hey? So sorry, I'm slightly out of screen. But here we go, put it back in. So I'm just going around the middle here, and then I used the dark blue to add on this flower. It had some sketchy little seeds and, stamens in the middle of the flower. So I sort of recreate that with the blue as well, with the paint. So coming to the last couple of flowers here, I do end up painting a butterfly, but I do that off screen because that's how smart I am. And I ended up putting some blue, and then I go over the line. So that butterfly just above the flowers I'm working with now, I do that one. I add some of the darker purple, and then I go over with the lines with the blue to give it that outliney look. And it's really pretty. You'll see it in my pile of embellishments when we come back from this bit, but I do cut out the little bit left that I've got that I did off screen because I was not aware of obviously where my camera was properly. But you can see they all come together so nicely to coordinate because the colours they all went together so nicely before, yes, but I was wanting not so much of the pink. I wanted some more of the bluey to stand out, the blue purple. So I'm starting with this title, and I'm just going to have a play with my cluster and work out exactly what I want and where I want it. I do start off with the basics, and then I do start to just glue it all down rather than playing around with where they're going and then picking it all up and gluing it down. So just a little play to start with. I did pull in that little shape up the top there. What would it be? It's a hexagon, just a more oblong, stretched out kind of a hexagon, isn't it? Not the normal hexagon that we're used to. So just trying these clear stickers, but the blue, obviously, the blue paint stroke isn't going to show on that blue ombre piece of paper. And just having a look with all the stickers and stuff, because I didn't want just flowers on here. I did want a little bit of other interest things. So that doily is lovely to build that cluster down the bottom. So that's going to be committed onto page. Whoop, rip the tissue paper. And on it goes. And then I'm going to work on the rest of the cluster here. So I'm adding one of the flowers that I painted and a love heart. Realised I'm out of screen and pull it up a bit for you. And I thought this frame is so lovely because the white and the blue stripes on the side tied in so nicely that it stands out without really standing out, if that makes sense. So XOXO down there, and a love heart, a flower. And that's mostly going to be that cluster there, just 3 flowers, love heart and the XOXO. It's a nice little spot to rest your eyes on here. Sorry, and a butterfly. I tell lies, apparently. But now we're going to work on that right hand side. So committing to that word butterfly, and I am using, excuse me, my voice went a bit croaky. I'm using wet glue so that I can position things underneath each other and move them a little bit. Obviously within reason, I can't move things after minutes. I peeled off some of that backing for the frame so that it wasn't so bulky, and I'm going to add this jar of love, as Oliver called it in the unboxing video, just because it is a lovey-dovey photo, or group of photos, I must say. We're all signing the marriage register from our wedding. So our children were in our wedding. We did everything backwards, had children first, and then got married, but that's a-okay. And just thinking about that hexagon, But instead it's going to go up the top there, and instead I'm going to add the flowers here, add some foam tape. Because it is wet glue, I do need to hold it a little bit. So I'm going to add some foam tape to the back of this butterfly's wings, just up the top, so it looks like it's flying off the page. And then it's glued down underneath so that it sits onto that jar and that flower below it. So yeah, so as you can see, my thought of having just a cluster to the right there in the middle and, you know, something little to the left has become a great design for this collection and these photos that are cut into a photo booth kind of style, because of the amount of space that it leaves on the layout without it being so overwhelming. You don't want, you know, space that's trapped or space that's too blank and too overwhelming on a page. I think the clusters are so bulky and there's lots of interest to them, so that it does draw your eye there so much that when you're looking around, it's not going, wow, there's just lots of blue in the background and nothing else going on. So that is my 2 cents on that. Going to add in some words now. So I've added in that love on the frame so that the cluster is built out even more in this all of us circle. And just making sure that I've got enough flowers and things. So that's that butterfly that I was talking about that I painted. Added in some leaves because we never have enough. And I really love the colour of these leaves and the way they're being drawn or painted. They are just adorable. We need 200 million of them. So there's those lovely butterfly stickers on the sticker sheet as well. So there's one on the left that I started with, and then that one down the bottom right. So they're a nice little pop of black without being overwhelmingly black. And just filling in any gaps that I see in the cluster and making sure it's standing out the way I want it to stand out. So at this point I'm thinking underneath the title there in that bit of trap space, I want to add some journaling just to fill it out. So you can see after the word beautiful, the embellishment goes across with the word beautiful and then goes down a little, and it sort of doesn't make sense too much. But once I add that journaling under the word beautiful next to the cluster of the flowers and that butterfly, it makes it fit so perfectly together. So I just realised that it'd be nice to have this banner up the top, and then I remembered I had that hexagon sitting up there that I thought would go nicely. So that's going to go up there, and I'm going to add a third butterfly, or actually a fourth butterfly, but the third sticker butterfly to the layout. And that's simply going to be a nice little cluster at the top of the page, just so that you can rest your eyes around the page and take in that colour and take in the design as a whole, rather than just looking at the middle of the page and not worrying about anything else. So I did cut it off, and then I put that little bit down the bottom there just in screen, luckily. So I'm going to work on some of these smaller little touches. So trying to work out if I want some of these hearts, and I don't think I really commit to any of them, because especially the clear sticker ones, I end up remembering after I do my journaling here, and I'm doing it in a white Uniball pen, and it works, but it does struggle at times, but that's okay. That was my thicker one, so I'm going and getting my thinner one for the writing. So just generally, you know, writing about how cool it was that all 4 of us got to write, sign our names on the marriage register book. So that was a lovely little thing that all 4 of us were included in that day. And that's simply, like, it doesn't really need much journaling. It's just 4 lovely photos. But it did need something underneath that journaling to, like, trap it into that cluster rather than it falling out of that cluster. It's so weird that we talk about embellishments and page and design like that, falling and trapped, and we need a border so that it doesn't fall off the page and our eyes don't wander and things like that. Anyway, I'm trying to find a flare button from the kit, but they weren't fitting for my idea of the design, so instead I find one in my stash, and it's like an autumn leaf, but it's the perfect pinky purpley kind of a colour. So that's going to go on there. And that word sticker that I was trying to make work, I put over here. I do add a little bit of foam tape so that it doesn't squash down, because obviously that, I was going to say butterfly, that love heart is 3D chipboard. So just going to add a doodly border with the white. And I did pull out the enamel dots that we got with the collection. The colours fit so well. It's so nice to have enamel dots that come with collections, even though it seems so extravagant. It's nice because the colours just match perfectly. So when you have collections like this where the purple and the blue are main colours, and purple is not really a colour that, that we have tons of in our stash, it's nice to have the enamel dots so that we can chuck them in here. So bigger ones I'm tucking in underneath things like I did at that jar of love so that it pops out, and adding two small ones at each one, and calling it a day with our enamel dots, because that is a perfect way to finish a layout. I don't think I do too much, but I have a little bit more of the video left, so I'm wondering what else I do. I do have a play with these words because I pulled them out with the ephemera because the colours went well together. And I did wonder if that happy needed to go on there, but no. Oh, I remember what I do. Some white splatters. So I did get out my Ranger ink white, but I don't know about that, but it doesn't work very well. So instead I'm using my paint pen here, just flicking some little bit of splatters, and we're going to go into the close-ups and call it a day. So I'll catch you next time, and let us know how you're going with your November kits. Bye.